Missouri. She's been invited to the debates with the other Republican and Democratic candidates. She is a beacon of liberty for the state of Missouri. She is going to take us into the next phase for the Missouri State Libertarian Party to become a major party in the state of Missouri. Here is our gubernatorial candidate, Libertarian Cisse.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everybody for braving the police state to come out tonight. It's great to see people here. I'm Cisse Spragins, and I'm running for governor of Missouri on the Libertarian ticket. As Cecil noted, there was a debate that the Missouri Press Association hosted in Branson about a week and a half ago, and they do have a history of always inviting all of the candidates on the ballot to attend. So that's something to thank them for if you happen to see somebody. Most of the newspapers in the state are members of the Press Association. And the debate is online. There were a couple of TV stations that actually did televise it, or at least put it online, and it is there. So that's the good news. Let's talk about the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party has been around since 1971. How many of you were around in 1971? Woo! Yay! Have you been a Libertarian since 1971, Greg?
No, 78.
78, okay, God bless him. Yay! The party, again, it started in 1971, and it was actually in response to some of Nixon's acts at that time, putting price controls on oil. If anyone remembers the 70s, you know how well that worked out. And then also his separating us, kind of basically cutting the last string that tied the U.S. to the gold standard. So those are two things, and we've had, of course, massive inflation and booms and busts extraordinaire since that time. So those were two acts that actually precipitated the formation of the Libertarian Party. We had our first presidential ticket on the ballot in 1972, and contrary to the statist history that you will hear, the first woman on a presidential ticket to ever get an electoral vote was, in fact, a Libertarian.
Woo!
Yay! And that was in 1972, before Geraldine Ferraro was on the ticket. So that's the Libertarian Party. The Missouri Libertarian Party has had a pretty successful history, thanks to people like Greg, who really is the stalwart of the party, wherever he was. Hey, Greg. Yeah. We've had ballot access in Missouri continuously since 1992, and we field a pretty full slate of candidates, certainly at the federal and statewide races, and then also on our state senate and state rep races, and also some local races. I believe we've got about 40 candidates on the ballot in Missouri this time. Is that right, Greg? I believe so.
Whoa!
Greg is the executive director of the Missouri Libertarian Party, and I actually was chair from 2010 till 2015, and it was actually Greg who did most of the work. God bless Greg.
She can lie like that. She's a politician deserving your vote.
So let's talk about what libertarians want. We know that we've got two ridiculously qualified people on the ballot for president, on the ballot in all 50 states, and they're being excluded from the debates.
Yeah!
And we know, unfortunately, having worked in the libertarian movement since 2002 or 3 as an activist, I'm not at all surprised, because the system is stacked against people like us. The system is all about maintaining the status quo, or as we like to say, the statist quo.
Yes!
Right? So it really wasn't. I know that they've been making a huge effort to get on the debate stage, but I wasn't really surprised, because I know the system is stacked. We know that the League of Women Voters backed out of the presidential debates in 1988, basically citing the ridiculous corruption and the demands that they were getting from the Democrat and Republican camps. Washington University claims to be nonpartisan, but they're supporting a debate which is in fact bipartisan. It's not nonpartisan, and very, very definitively bipartisan, because there's a substantial percentage of the population that want to see Gary Johnson on the debate stage. What do libertarians want? I know what I want.
Freedom.
I want freedom, but why do I want freedom? I want prosperity for our families, and I want peace on our streets.
Yes.
And liberty is a necessary condition for both of those. It's not liberty for liberty's sake. It's liberty because those are the blessings that we get from liberty. Libertarianism is nothing but voluntary human interaction.
Woo!
Libertarians are opposed to force. We don't want force in human interactions. You cannot advocate for peace and then on the other hand advocate for government force. It doesn't work. That's why we have people shooting each other in the streets, because we have a drug war that's ridiculous, it's unconstitutional, it's racist, and it violates our personal freedoms. We have our economic freedoms being violated, which is decreasing the prosperity. People shoot each other in the streets when they have no hope, and they have no hope because of what the state has done to our prospects for future prosperity, or current prosperity. People think libertarians are crazy, but I'll tell you what's crazy is assuming that we can have a $20 trillion debt and think that that's actually going to end well for any of us.
Right?
As I said in the debate that I was in about a week and a half ago, if we don't change course radically very soon, we're going to have the first generations of Americans that leaves this country for greater opportunity elsewhere. Is that the legacy that we want to leave from the country that, the only country on earth that really was conceived in liberty?
No.
No. Okay. Now, we don't want to be sentimental for some past state of libertarian utopia, because we've not ever had that in the history of the world. What we want to do is look forward to a libertarian future. We've had so many developments that have come from the amazing innovation that humanity is able to create when they are free. So many technological innovations, so many things that have been able to improve people's lives. And if we could get the shackles of government off our backs, then we could really unleash that to create prosperity that would really be unprecedented. We have seen increases in prosperity from technology, but we've also seen the heavy hand of the state. And unfortunately, the more prosperous we become, the more prosperous the government becomes in this current setup. So we have a country that was conceived in liberty that now has the largest government on earth. Isn't that strange? Very strange, yeah.
Yes.
So what's good about that? Nothing, okay? But you have to basically get over the wasted vote syndrome as a starting point, and that's a really basic starting point, because at the end of the day, the system is corrupt. The system is designed to basically preserve the status quo. It's designed to keep incumbents in office. And that's, debate exclusion is one thing. Hell, a lot of people, when we're running for elections, you know, you're running for Congress as a libertarian. How many of you have participated in a debate? How many of you have run for Congress as a libertarian? Yay! I know Rob has like 8 times. Raise your hand, Rob. But what's interesting, in a lot of jurisdictions, the other guys won't even show up to a debate. I mean, the press can decide to have a debate and they won't even show up because they're so freaking entrenched. I mean, how often do our Congress people in Missouri change? Like, not very often.
When they die.
Yeah, when they die, as Greg pointed out. Yeah, you know, or something really strange happens, or they get offered a really, really sweet job like happened down in your district, and they decide to resign right after the election, after being in office for God knows how long. But that's basically what we have, is we have a system that's designed to keep the status quo, to keep incumbents in office. And these laws were created by the politicians that are in office, so it's really not that surprising. But what we want to do, any incremental move towards liberty will help your fellow man. It's going to help our prosperity. It's going to help our peace. Anything that we can do to move government in a more libertarian direction, to move society in a more libertarian direction, is going to help our prosperity. So if Gary Johnson can get 15% of the vote, that'll actually kind of scare the crap out of a number of people.
Yes, it will.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Woo! 15, right? The same. Right. At the state level, the same thing. If we can have some statewide candidates, we can have Jonathan, me, anybody running for office, as a candidate on the Libertarian ticket, get a substantial percentage of the vote, even if you don't win, that's actually going to send a message. At the end of the day, politicians' job is to stay in office, and it's your job not to get screwed by them. Okay?
Right.
So anything that they do is going to try to keep them in office, and if they see that people actually want government to move in a libertarian direction, then maybe they will. Because again, liberty is a moral imperative. It's the thing that's going to help the most people in this country, in this world, to be prosperous and live in a peaceful environment. So that's what we want for ourselves, we want it for our neighbors, we want it for our country. And we need to basically send that message, and don't be cowards. So make a pledge to yourself. If you've ever voted for the lesser of two evils, please make a pledge to yourself to stop. Because if you do that, unfortunately, you're just perpetuating the problem. That is, you become part of the problem if you do that. But don't just stop there. Talk to people. Talk to them on social media. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Look for those opportunities. When somebody has a bad run-in with the state, maybe a cousin, has a farm that basically the EPA decides he can't grow crops on and he goes bankrupt because it's supposedly a wetland or something along those lines. Whatever happens, there's things like that happen all the time. And if you look for people in your family, in your circle of friends that have those types of problems that occur, use those as opportunities to teach the message of voluntary action, to teach the message of freedom, and to teach the message of peace, because that's what libertarians want. Our principle is the non-aggression principle. It's basically voluntary human interaction. People think that capitalism or the market is scary and horrible. No, all it is individuals voluntarily trading with each other and contracting with each other. Why is that scary? Why do we think that we need to have a central planner deciding what kind of contracts we're going to have with each other and how we're going to trade with each other, as long as we're trading with each other voluntarily? Is that a bad thing?
No.
No, yeah. So what is it that's so scary about that? So when people talk about libertarians being crazy or being utopian, say, there's 90,000 pages in the Federal Register of Regulations. No human person can actually know what they all are. That's actually what's crazy. Libertarians are not crazy. Thinking that people should be able to voluntarily interact with each other is in fact not crazy. What we're doing in this country is what's crazy. Where we're going, unfortunately, is what's crazy. Libertarian philosophy, you can sum it up as don't hurt your neighbors and don't take their stuff.
Yes!
Now, the really important caveat of that, because most people live by that anyway. I think the vast majority of people do. In fact, I'm sure they do. But somehow they think that if the government does it for you, it's okay. So don't hurt your neighbors, don't take their stuff, and don't ask the government to do it on your behalf. Something that's immoral for you to do personally doesn't become moral because the government does it, and it doesn't become moral because a quote-unquote majority votes for it. Being a voting majority, which is really not a majority in this country, because most people are so nauseated by politics that they can't even stand to actually go vote, and they don't even understand all the absurdities that go on, and you can't blame them in that sense. On the other hand, the punishment for being absent from political exercises and political activity is being ruled by your inferiors. I think that was Mark Twain that said that, actually. But anyway, I appreciate everybody coming out here, and we really appreciate your efforts on behalf of the cause of liberty, and to help Johnson and Weld get in the debates, and to put out your support for people, and to brave the police state for getting here. That was actually no small feat. I know it took me quite a long time to make it around all the barricades. Thank you so much.